Hi, my name is William. Today's video is called The Moon's Recession in the Biblical Age. Well, they're going to be talking about that. Now, why? Well, the moon is drifting away from the Earth. About here. You see the moon is drifting away from the Earth? Right here. We got a tidal bulge. The moon causes the tides. But the moon keeps drifting away, it will probably keep causing less tides. Tides will become a lot less. See, moon receding from the Earth. And it's just another here. Here it says the Earth says right here, I feel we're drifting apart. Yeah. But that's just a picture. Now, the moon would keep. Now, I'm not sure what the evolutionists believe about. Well, they believe that the moon is about 4 billion years old. So they believe when the Earth was a hot molten rock, the Earth didn't have a moon. So I don't know, but I think what they believe is that some kind of planet hit the Earth, and then made the Earth, and then made the Earth have a moon, and they said this had, and they believe this happened about 4 billion years ago. I don't know why they believe in that anyway. I believe God created the moon about 6,400 years ago. This won't be a problem anyway, because I believe the problem is that what I learned from creationism is that moon would be in contact with the Earth about 4 billion years, about 1.4 billion years. When you get to the moon, let me get to the moon receding, because of my book called Truth and Genesis, Exposing a Lie of Evolution in Millions of Years. I'm getting to that right now. Right here, see, drifting moon. It says right here, as the moon orbits the Earth, it gradually gets farther away from the Earth. We are slowly losing the moon. The moon is leaving us at a rate about 1.48 inches per year. Obviously, if the moon is getting farther away from us every day, this means it used to be closer. And when we go back in time and bring the moon in closer to the Earth, we see the problem. The moon is what causes the tides on the Earth. If the moon were closer, the tides would have been higher. So you can see the moon keeps drifting away. And when the moon keeps drifting away, the tides will be lower. When the moon was closer, the tides were higher. Well, the tides are going to be lower in the future because the moon is drifting away. Now, using the inverse square law, we find that if we're about the moon about 1/3 the distance it is today, we have 9 times the gravitational pull. If we go back in time, we would find that only 1.4 billion years ago, the Earth and the moon would have been touching one another. Walter Brown, in his book, in the beginning, states that this fact alone puts the age of the moon age of the Earth-Moon system less than 1.2 billion years max. Okay. It means that in 1.3 billion years, the moon will be in the Earth's rotation limit. Okay. The moon was about 60. The moon was created about 6,400 years ago, and it's only about 3 days younger than the Earth. So the moon might be a little bit closer. I don't know how much closer. I don't know, maybe about 1,000 times closer. Maybe I would say maybe 6 times closer. I would say 6,000 times closer than it was today. That's what I believe. Because this won't be a problem if the Earth and the moon about 6,400 years old. Now, we're having solar eclipses and they believe, and plus evolutionists, they believe that in about 600 million years, the moon won't have solar eclipses anymore. Here's why. Because the moon will be drifting so far away. That's why. And they also believe, well, this is one thing I disagree with them, because they also believe that the sun will be getting larger. Now, I already made a video about the sun getting smaller. Okay? If you want to see my video called The Sun Contracting Not Expanding video, when I talk about the sun shrinking and not growing, well, go back and watch that video. Okay? If you want to see more than that. I'm going to see more of that. But I do believe you shouldn't have solar eclipses anymore if the moon was 4 billion years old. Okay, well, like the evolutionists want us to believe. Of course you shouldn't have it. Now, what about but the moon keeps drifting away. I believe if the moon is even older than evolutionists believed, if the moon is 10 billion years old, then the moon should not be orbiting the Earth anymore. It should only be orbiting the sun. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't know. Because while the moon is too small for making the Earth tightly locked to it. See? The reason why Pluto and Charon are tightly locked to each other is because Charon is half as big as Pluto. But our moon is way smaller than that. But our moon is too small to be half the size of the Earth. Sorry, our moon is too small to be half the size of the Earth. Okay, only Mars is about half the size of the Earth. Our moon is way smaller than that. Okay, so that's why I don't believe that the Earth will be tightly locked to the moon in the future. I believe what would happen if the moon was super old, maybe like about 10 billion years old. It would be so far away, it won't be orbiting the Earth anymore. It will only be orbiting the sun. So it should not be orbiting the Earth anymore if it was 10 billion years old. But if the moon was 4 billion years old, like the evolutionists believed, then we shouldn't have solar eclipses anymore. So I believe the moon the moon should be even farther away if it was 4 billion years old, not where it is right now. So to me, the moon turning away is a problem for evolution, but it's not a problem for creation. Because I believe in a universe that's only about 6,400 years old, or 6,400 years old. Okay? So, I know this article says moon recession and age, but I titled this video is called The Moon Recession and the Biblical Age. Because I know what would happen. I know what will happen if the moon keeps drifting away from the Earth. Yes?
You want to eat?
I'll eat soon, Mom.
Okay, I'll them close. Okay, good.
Okay. So let's learn about the moon. Okay, I'll go read the article why I believe the moon about this article right here. About the moon drifting away from the Earth. So the moon recession and the biblical age. So the moon recession and age. The history of modern lunar origins that traces back to George Darwin in the 1800s. Such naturalistic theories are presumed that the moon is extremely old and often plaguing irreversible difficulties. In addition, the moon is slowly receding from the Earth, a phenomenon in separation of our limit of moon's age, approximately 1/3 of the conventional age of 4.6 GA. Now, I don't know what GA stands for. Okay, it stands for 1 billion years. Okay, it's a conventional age of 4.6 billion years. The issue has a long-standing challenge in the conventional chronology using decimal tidal parameters and presumes conventional age, then proving it when there is no support for long chronology. According to Genesis chapter 1, verses 4 to 18, in the King James Bible, God spoke to the moon into existence as a unique central body on day 4 on the creation week, opposing the Genesis account, naturalistic theories of lunar origin, the capture theory, daughter theory, 2, the exhalation theory, sister theory, the fission theory, and the spouse theory, popularized by George Darwin, son of Charles Darwin, and the impact theory. The impact theory is compact of favor of the other theories have been found of serious flaws. The capture theory has been discredited by of the Earth and probably of the capturing the moon-sized object, but explain the moon itself. But these are traces of the origin of the far of the Earth. The first moon landing astronauts placed mirrors on the moon, making it possible for lunar laser ranging experiments leading to precise determination of the lunar recession rate. The exhalation theory claims that the moon is constant from debris, or meaning that the solar nebula is close orbit about the Earth. The Exhalation Theory is sometimes called the double planet theory, say that the moon formed about a tangent of the solar nebula. If this theory were true, the Earth and the moon have similar structure and composition. It might have expected of the creation of the moon of the heavenly object and its composition, especially the difference of the iron content. It does not match the Earth's. Indeed, the exploration of the discrete because it's difficult to explain how debris is called seeds. Also because the problem explaining why the abundance iron in the Earth and the moon is so different. The fission theory claims that the moon consists of the debris spinning off, presumably molting the Earth's eons ago. And on the impact theory claims a Mars size of the impact of the Earth. And the debris is eventually continuing into the moon, and the fission of the impact theory is going to be forming the moon constantly or near the Earth's Roche limit. The Roche is not just the lunar formation. The Roche is the side of the central body as a planet inside, which is the debris. Cannot call this. The gravitational force of the central body orbiting the particle is stronger on the particles near the side, on its far side, which is within the Roche limit. Gravitational force is larger than the particles on self-generation particles break apart rather than joining. A satellite exists within the Roche limit. If the gravitational cohesive forces hold the object together, but once torn apart into smaller pieces, it cannot rejoin. Saturn's rings, eventually fragments of moons orbiting Saturn inside the Roche limit, forcing collisions and insertive forces with the moons torn of the moons apart. But if before they fragmented, the collective forces of moons together, but they disagreed and they could not reform. Okay. Similarly, the Earth's moon could never form inside the Roche limit out of debris due to fission. Well, okay. So the impact theory does not lunar origin difficulties. If the impact leaves moon is still unresolved and is adopted not so much because the merits of the moon's theory, because of the shortcomings of other theories. Lunar origin has a theory of being sort of fanfare when being dropped as unworkable. Indeed, Hartman quipped. The moon seems unlikely object. The theoreticians have been led by frustration on more than one occasion and to suggest fortuitously that does not exist. The impact theory is first proposed in 1975 and found widespread existence in 1984 until details of the Earth were examined, and at the field explaining fortunately all observations before the impact, the Earth's rotation just current value. However, it's mentioned the moon's iron and significantly spill into orbit. And part of the moon. Further impactor. Okay, the moon's idea to be lower than the Earth. Explain this by increasing collision. It's too much impactors, iron spill, and to become part of the moon. Further, the impactor would need to have been quite large, 2 or 3 Mars masses. But propel sufficient debris or form the moon. But just a large impactor would then pose other challenges. the combined mass of the Earth Moon will be large less Earth. One party formed at the time of the impact have been a little half formed. The current estimate that the Earth is 89% credit. However, the collision distance is or by 10%. The Earth's mass nebula from detected with the Earth. But how did the solar glass survive the giant impact? In the elements, which would later make up the percent the secondary atmosphere, would have been lost. The replacement of the great impacts because of the ratio of the Earth is different than of comets. That's all DH of comets acquired for so far preclude this ocean. There's no direct evidence that into the magma ocean that existed on Earth. On the other hand, an impactor is too small size with impact orientation, and so much the impactor core remains in orbit, leading to a moon too rich in iron. Number 2, a large impactor would be so much energy into the moon, the impacted debris would vaporize before the moon could form. To counter this problem, hybrid model developed by which debris, when the arrangement is allowed to vaporize. The debris is arrangement allowed to cool radiation originally for the moon. But this physical basics of demonstrate, however, assumption of the hybrid scheme as a digital modeling device. The large impactor will produce the Earth-Moon system twice as much angular momentum as it should have. That in responding to these concerns, and this according to claim that develop a computer model about Mars-sized impactor that yards the output moon, and the most of the current. Masses of the angular momentum of the Earth-Moon system. As always premature, as we will now see that the degree of vaporization of debris known that is currently a question of the Earth and Moon impactor of the detectable perimeter of exploded moon results. You see endemic to all impact models. Another critical factor of the moon of all models, timing of the packages through Huntium of the RE210A2, RE2HF, and RE2W. Still has the dates of the moon. There's another classical characters of the listing notes. It's uneven clear of the parameters constantly affecting each other, but all methods rely on models covering the complexity involving assumptions. It is difficult to measure. Okay, it's going to say what W Lunar is dating of the accessible of the age of the Earth. For further W to be evidence of the extreme of space, including colleague intelligence at the conclusion the moon was formed 30 million years ago after the Earth of the W isotope of the only one lunar symbol. Another result from that of the moon's orbital inclination. The moon orbit is about 5 degrees the Earth's orbit. Here's your back. And the Earth was up about 400 billion years ago. And the inclination would have been about 10 degrees. This causation of that is mystery for 30 years. The Deming process is just these Then you can flatten the flattened Saturn's rings would tend to decrease orbital inclinations. In other words, the moon had been ordered analytically, inclination of the would be zero, and a lunar eclipse would be occurred at such each full phase. Now, biblically, God created the moon. Its very present inclination. The orbital inclination problem is that's really a pseudo problem. However, the wording cannot solved the involving inclinational attractions of the instances of possibly only one instance of this particles and debris forming the moon. The instance of involved inclining of the instruction of the Saturnian and Iranian rings, for example. The instance of monowork lunar origins, the time lunar information, and the suggestion into parameters assigning something present. It depends mainly on. And they cannot be set up the order dependent results of an inclination of remains resolved. Investigate ruling out special creation. So the moon's maximum age is less than 4.6 billion years. The moon was never at the Rhodes limit, and Recession is set in the infirmament, Genesis chapter 1 verse 17, in the King James. Approximately the distance of the Earth, the lunar laser especially have shown the very slowly receding from the Earth. On the moon, the experience can repute. That's the time of idea required. The moon recede of its rotation is present position. The data of the moon is where is of the moon's orbit the Earth, and approximately units constant 234 when t equals 0 and r equals t0. Okay, E0 and r equals r0. The continuous attention of the conjunction to 1 over the time and referred to t, the distance of the increase of the Rhodes limit or to of the planet's orbit distance r, in which the maximum age of the moon system is the value of the object of the orbiting planet what age r0 is. Where r is radius of the central body. The Earth, in this case, the density of the central body is density of the orbiting body of the case of the moon, where r equals 3.781 of the Earth of moon 5 kilometers, or find that the moon is less than 5% of the moon's current orbital radius. From the equation, the provisional constant of the moon of the 6th power, and the moon recession rate, and the positive value of the recession rate, 4.4 plus 4.8, okay, plus 36 centimeters, and then 0.4 times 10 of the 10 times to the negative square power of a month's worth / year. Therefore, 1.42 times 10 to the 50th power, or M7 for / year. And this value for the k inside of the equation 1 equals present recession d dr for dt when r equals moon's current of the orbital radius. The equation 2 has time to the of the 1.3 billion years without reducing the number of parameters. The discussed below of highest allowable evolutionary age. So the young estimate the serious colleague of the belief of the 4.6 billion billion years old. Baldwin noted. Jeffries of the a fraction of the yielded rough age of the moon of 4 billion years. However, the Donald which of the observations indicate of the fraction of the imperial force and it has now more than 1.478 billion years, the total fraction of the moon toward its the data is possible for mean existence, and VW is too short compared with the age of the Earth. As students doubts they have been cast upon the proposed origins and histories of the Earth. Okay, so doubts of the history of the moon. Okay, so your Japanese is a friction of the moon of the most of the 4 billion years, whatever. The Malcolm McDonald studied observations of friction realized that it would have to take about 1.7 billion years for time of friction of the moon outward its present distance of possible minimum distance. The breakdown to restore within the age of the Earth, and since it doubts of we cast upon the origins of history of the histories of the moon. Now this one. Facts to say the lunar condition have failed. One response to conditional recession has been impact theory, which is the origins of the origin of it. As we check beyond it, but the impact theory has been going beyond orbit. Or it is also claims the moon has a semi-rich orbital limit. According to the theory of the moon receding, but it was one of putting Earth series alternating position of the Earth origin events the moon's conditional age. There's also theory, however. However, the pursuit of conditional age has been proven, and there's no support of evolutionary chronology. Another response is that misbites of the lunar regenerate. The moon is the current rate of 1.38 centimeters per year, which is a lower age than the lunar regenerate rates discussed above, and fixed velocity is only 3 centimeters per year. But it's right here. So the recession rate of the moon system, the glacial lunar chronology. Now, however, the moon system had been much smaller than its current value equation shows the distance of g, but it has been larger in early times. So George, I didn't see it. The lunar recession is slow now. So the rate of this street is slow. Okay. So Darwin stated, although it's in a lower recession as it now, the moon has gone which is much more very rapidly when the moon was nearer to us. It echoed much more recently of Verhoeven. Okay, these equations should be about together. With the glacial age of 4.6 billion years, for the system we can go here up in front of the moon, which over that time using 8.4 okay, 1.84, 10.7. So okay, 10 when the rate of power of the years of the is up to 20 higher than glacial distance of the Earth. Using fixed element of the 4% greater distance into the time frame, 1.8 billion years is so short time than 6 billion years. Okay, short time. Okay. The moon suggested of the greater chances of the dividends of team of a sort of about 4.6 billion years date. The response, this type of parameters, with this moon quantity of into harmony with the gravitational solar system lifetime. Now, time tested a failed of lunar chronology. The primary cause of the recession of tides the Earth oceans, affecting the Earth's ocean water, and causes the Earth to lose rotation energy. Therefore, the momentum of the conventional requires of the Moon angular momentum at equal degree. The Moon exists in orbit and associated with the recession of the Earth. In essence, our visual evidence deemed back about the 2,700 years into Babylonian civilization falls. Civilization shows the day leading about a range 1.7 milliseconds per century, consisting of Earth's slowing rotation rate. We can have this moon recession of the Israel of the 1.3 billion years. Next stage above the continues. Such time has been proved unrealistic. What is wrong with the computation of the time of this has been corrected? The solution of the problem is the reduced rate of the digestion of the energy in the past. This is the few stages to make a vertical adjustment of the tidal acceleration. The assessment is saying eventually contrast the equations 1 and 2 actually variable and must be adjusted of the lunar chronology and line of the Earth. The extension of the experiment nature of adjustment of MS sites of Magnard as an if of the recent have except a visualization of the decision in the past, still lacking evidence of the moon's orbit. In the past, this in the moon's orbit would look like 3 or 4 billion years ago. Okay, so let's turn off one of the earliest investigators suggest slower and terrestrial energy and instant of the present of the remark of unknown reasons have occurred. Dilemma ground you have been resolved. Okay, the goal reach of the search of the possible causes the big concluded. Let's present estimates the acceleration of velocity and error. Only about energy sink and so we can problem. The only energy sink could be very significantly that we just time in the ocean. For the global open ocean, it would be an experience of least friction of therefore energy at the lowest rate. Accordingly, investigators or conditions would provide minimum assistance to the tides. These now as two models. The single of the polygon after the integrated mass. Piper. Okay, Piper and Webb. The proposal to the present arrangement of the Earth at normal continues normal. But of the Americas. This is across the path until the total of that is in descension rate. Okay. Constructing the Earth was using difficult because in getting tenured of the greater past of Indian recession, the creationist perspective is continued about its occurred in conventional sense. The link of extremities that in geologic deposits to confirm large chronologies may be visual variations. The link of deposits called rights acquired billions of years according to the extension of assumptions. Tidally, the limited assessments are taken about recession about 1.7 centimeters per year, between 2.5 and about 600 million years ago. 25 billion years and 650 million years ago. That's the unit of 26 years of this ever since then. Okay, so right here, the claim will be reliable when the data, often short because, okay, and parentheses have been obtained from selected data sets. And the subdata of the pursuing age there, thus, recession is okay, based on the subdata pursuing age. Thus, relation age of Earth derived of Earth chronologies, going to say that physical evidence that the moon is old indeed, of the demonstrating conflict river too long, claim its evidence to be patterns of consisting of observatories should get of the sun's in history. However, there is no known condition leaving the characteristics of solar behavior. Imitation of areas of the solar and of the solar phenomena. Comments now replace our interpretation as far as the window of the lunar history. Nevertheless, a recent arrangement is analysis titled "Limits and are limited." Parameters of parameters in instead of geologic past of the highly speculative. Now, conclusions. Over approximately 6,000 years since the creation of the universe, the lunar recession rate essentially constant at the present value. However, assuming a multi-billion year age, the lunar recession rates have been much higher in the distant past than now. The current extended parameters indicate that it would have been required 1.3 billion years to move origin of the rotation to its current position. The moon's upper limit age shows that gravitational energy is correct. If the solar system was actually 4.6 billion years old in its present position, let us wisely believe that the impact theory of the lunar origin and naturalized the dilemmas. Chronology, however, this is not true. The lunar scientists after years it used to be a joke, but it's of information of the error. The moon does not exist negation of the Bernoulli change. Neither of the scientists has been called this identity was continued to apply most impact theory paper. That was a long article, but I was trying to show you. But I was trying to show you why the moon drifting away is proof of a young Earth and a young universe. Only about 6,400 years old. That's why. Now, I'll be talking about next video. It's supposed to say about Mother's Day. I'll talk about that next video. So go right now. So thank you for watching this video. And we enjoy it. Bye.